At least the Gulls finished on a high note, so that's something.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for well over a decade, and this episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go now on the free App Store or Google Play today. As I've mentioned, I've been covering minor league hockey for over a decade. I'm also currently the public address voice for the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and also contribute to Defend the Nest, which I did over the weekend since both of those games happened to be against Coachella Valley. So I spent all of last weekend watching Firebirds Gulls, one of those games at Pechanga Arena and one of those games at Acrisure Arena. Before I talk about the games themselves, I just want to give a shout out to all the fans that I talked to and spent some time with last weekend. All the fans are just simply amazing out there in San Diego. So if I haven't done this before, I just want to say thank you to all the fans. I got to give a major shout out to Jeff Bush, who has been like super awesome over the years. I met him years and years and years ago at Pechanga Arena when I was out there super frequently back in 2018 and 2019 and the first part of 2020. So just got to give a shout out there. And to all the other fans that I have met out in San Diego, and a lot of them have come to visit in Ontario and have come to visit at Palm Desert. So just got to give a shout out to all you guys that have been super loyal to the San Diego Gulls for the past few years. You have an amazing fan base. I love y'all. That being said, I talked to most of you after the game on Saturday, and everybody pretty much told me the same thing. This game is the epitome of the San Diego Gulls season. Okay, I get it. The Gulls are not good again, but hey, look on the bright side. I know I said this to fans a lot last weekend. I tried to look for bright sides for this goal team, and there are some bright sides to this Gulls team. The record is better than last season. It wasn't nearly as bad as the 40-something points I got last season. Also, bright side, they're not in last place. That honor would go to the San Jose Barracuda, who were worse this season. So hey, the Gulls are not in last place. Another bright side is that some aspects of the game did improve between this season and last season, which I will completely break down on an episode this coming week. I will have someone to come on later this week, so just want to get that out there. I'm just going to talk about the games. I'm going to talk about the games in general because they both have the exact same overarching theme. And the big takeaway, the Gulls somehow allow other teams to get back into games and they take their foot off the gas. I think that's my biggest takeaway for the Gulls, not just for these last couple of games, but for the season in general. The Gulls, they get out to leads. Like they have good stretches of hockey. They have good 10-minute stretches. They have good 15-minute stretches. Saturday night was the first time that I saw a full 40-minute stretch where the Gulls looked really good. And I know I normally say on Gulls Thursday or even on the Ducks podcast, because this applies to the Ducks as well. Yeah, you have about 8 minutes to 10 minutes. I don't know why I'm kind of laughing, coughing here. Maybe at most 15 minutes of good hockey. At most a 20-minute period of good hockey. So when I saw the San Diego Gulls go up 4-1 on the Coachella Valley Firebirds last Saturday, I was like, this is the best 40 minutes I've seen them play in a while. And it happened again on Sunday when the Gulls jumped out to a 3-0 lead in Coachella Valley. Now, I will give this caveat to the Gulls fans. I will give this big time caveat. The Firebirds rested a lot of guys. The Firebirds had already clinched home ice in the Pacific Division. They had already clinched home ice in the Western Conference. They clinched the Western Conference regular season title. They couldn't catch Hershey. So there was really not a whole lot to play for Coachella Valley. So they rested a bunch of guys. Okay, fine. So they rested guys. Doesn't matter to San Diego. They still want to play for something. They still want to play for pride. And they still want to give their fans something to be positive about, which they did. But man, blowing 3-goal leads, not once but twice against the Firebirds, is it a little discouraging? Yes. But is there the bright side that they're at least getting out to 3-goal leads? Because they certainly were not doing that last season. I mean, I think the biggest leads they had, for the most part, was one. If they ever got a 2-goal lead, you would think, whoa, what's going on? The Gulls have a 2-goal lead? What is this? Now 3-goal leads, but they're blowing those too. Yeah, it's been the overarching theme for the San Diego Gulls is they just take their foot off the gas. They do. Like they jump out to big leads, or they jump out to leads, and they do something that the Ducks have done for the last few years is they kind of hold back a little bit. They start playing protect the puck, or they start playing not to close it out, not to jump on their throats, but they're kind of trying to protect a lead. That's not how you hockey. That's not. I have seen way too many teams do this, not just the Gulls, not just the Ducks, but there's several teams out there that ironically or unironically also have poor records. And they just kind of hold onto the puck and try to run the clock down and hope that the other team's push isn't greater than their deficit. I'm sorry, but, you know, when you have a big lead like that, you've got to keep pressing and you've got to keep going and going and going. Keep up that aggression. Keep up those hard hits. Keep just trying to extend that lead instead of allowing the other teams to play their game. Like, you just cannot do that. And I hope that's something that not just the Gulls, but the Ducks work on next season as well, is protecting leads. They cannot blow leads left and right. So I guess if there's an overarching theme, that's what it is. And it's not just the goaltending, it's not just a defenseman, but it is everybody on the team where they will all of a sudden hold the puck behind their net for a good 20 seconds, try to bring the puck over the blue line, and they wind up dumping and changing. That's something that I saw a lot in that third period on Saturday. Anytime they had the puck, they would just kind of chip it in. One guy would try to chase it, but for the most part, everyone would change. So not good when you're doing that for an entire period. It's not. And I'll go more in detail about the games in general after the first intermission, since I saw both games. So we'll head to the first intermission right now. Stay locked in. Stay locked. I get it. And now a brief word after I had that lame joke. A brief word from FanDuel, which it's winner take all time in the NBA playoffs and the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. And FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook and the official online sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. And please, folks, gamble responsibly. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with Jason JD Hernandez. And as I've mentioned, I sometimes contribute to Defend the Nest. And I got to give a shout out here to John Broadbent, who is the main editor for Defend the Nest. And since he was unable to cover the game on Saturday, and he knew that I was going to be at Pechanga Arena on Saturday, so he said, hey, how about a recap? I'm like, I'm here. like, I'll be glad to write a recap. So shout out to John Broadbent for having me cover Saturday's game at Pechanga Arena, which was a fun crowd. I always love the crowds at Pechanga Arena. The pregame stuff was really cool. I always love the pregame stuff that y'all have at Pechanga Arena. It was fan appreciation night, giving away all kinds of stuff. And it was just a fun time all around. And it was fun for the Gulls. They jumped out to a big lead early in the game. It was 3-0 after the first 21 minutes. And I'll give a couple of shout outs here. One of my favorite players, Sasha Pastujov, got his 10th goal of the season. Sasha is just such a great guy. And from many accounts, not just from folks in San Diego, but also from the folks at Coachella Valley, like that kind of work underneath, everybody says he's a super nice guy. And I happen to know that Sasha is just such a genuine guy, ever since he was a kid. So yeah, just got to give that shout out there. So 2-0 after Sasha's goal, 3-0 after Andrew Agozzino's goal, which is something of note. Because when Agozzino scored that goal, he set the single season goals record for most points in a season, which at the time was 62. So congrats to Andrew Agozzino. Yeah, he had a good mark on this one. So just got to give my props there. So that made it 3-0. And then after that, hey, guess what? It was Coachella Valley coming back, making it 3-1. Oh, no, but what? Hold on. The Gulls came back and scored? Yes, they did. The Gulls came back and scored to make it 4-1. So would you believe all of a sudden it was 4-1 San Diego after 40 minutes? Yes, that's exactly what happened. It was 4-1 after 40 minutes. That was great. Also, a shout out to Jan Mishak, who scored his first as a goal. Congratulations to Jan Mishak. That was great. But the Agozzino shot, that was really cool. And also, by the way, I forget whose record he broke. I want to say, and I had it written down, and I actually didn't leave it on there. But he did break a record for most points, passing 61. I don't have it in front of me, but actually, no, I lied. I do have it in front of me. I just got to look for it. But as I look for it, I just want to kind of point out one other thing. Coachella Valley did also kind of hang back a little bit on this game, which they did. And San Diego was still aggressive. Even after 32, 33 minutes, they were still aggressive. Where did that go? I don't know where that went after that. All right. I don't know why I cannot find it here. I know I wrote it down. Oh, here we go. It was Sam Carrick who scored 61 points in the 2018-2019 season. I was going to say Sam Carrick. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. It was 2018-2019. That's when Carrick got 61 points. So now 62 points and counting for Agozzino. And then the third period happened, and it was all Coachella Valley from there. All Coachella Valley. They came out big time on fire. And it was Yanni Newman who scored for Coachella Valley, making it 4-2. That's his second. And then Shane Wright took over after the final TV timeout. And this is what the Firebirds want. They want to see Shane Wright just completely dominate. And this only happened because Trevor Carrick just kind of chucked it. He chucked it over the glass. And I will try to reenact what exactly happened during that game. So here's Trevor Carrick. He chucks it over. Bloop. Oh, he didn't facepalm, but here's what happened. He went bloop. Oh. That's what he did. Yes, he may have let out a couple of words, but Trevor Carrick just lofted it over. He knew what he did. He knew exactly what he did, and he just skated right over to the penalty box because he knew that he just committed a bad delay of game puck over the glass penalty. And then there was another penalty. And what do you think is going to happen when you give the Firebirds a chance because of penalties? Exactly what happened. Coachella Valley scored in the power play. So it's a 1-goal game now. Great. Then Coachella Valley pulled their goalie, Alice Stetska, and it's a man advantage for Coachella Valley. What do you think is going to happen in that case? Great. Tie game. And that Shane Wright goal with 5.9 seconds left, to try to break it down, he was crashing the net. He was falling to the ice. He was behind the red line. And while he was on the ground, Shane Wright took his stick and just kind of tapped the puck towards the goal. It banked off of a San Diego Gulls player as Shane Wright was down on the ice. Just flipped it back, deflected, and it went in with 5.9 seconds left. As soon as that puck crossed the line, and it barely crossed the line, by the way, I said, oh, this is over. This is it. And sure enough, Coachella Valley won it in overtime in San Diego, thanks to Marian Studenic. So final score there was 5-4. Oh, but guess what? The same thing happened in Coachella Valley. San Diego scored 3 consecutive goals in the first period, in the first 10 minutes. They were up 3-0. Agozzino scored 2 goals in the first 7 minutes to get him to 26 goals and eventually ending his total with a career high 64 points. That's a career high for Agozzino. Also the single season record for the San Diego Gulls, owned by Andrew Agozzino. Congrats to him on that. After it was 3-0, you knew what was going to happen. The first 20 minutes were good. The last 40 minutes, and I'm going to compose myself here, the last 40 minutes of regulation, the Firebirds outshot the San Diego Gulls 33-9. 33-9 in the last 40 minutes of regulation. San Diego not just relaxed, they completely relaxed. It was 18-3 shots in the second period, and somehow the Firebirds couldn't put one across because, oh my gosh, Tomasz Jukanik, he was brilliant in net. He saved that game. Then the third period, Andrew Podorowski scored, former San Diego Gull, 3-1, of course. Then Logan Morrison, 3-2, because of course. Then John Hayden ties it up, because of course. Overtime, nothing happened, so we go to a shootout. There's only two shots worth mentioning. Third round, Max McCormick rang one off the post. I thought that was going to end the game for the Firebirds. And then right after that, Sasha Pastujov, one of my favorites. Pastujov just slung it towards the net right past Chris Drieger. That was the game winner. Sasha with the first star honors in Coachella Valley with the game-winning shootout goal. And hey, you know what? At least the San Diego Gulls ended on a high, on a positive note, winning it 4-3 in a shootout. Congrats to the Gulls on finishing the season not in last place and finishing with a bang. So there is something positive about that. Even though they blew a lead, they stuck with it in overtime, actually outshot the Firebirds in overtime, and found a way to win. So I'll give some props where props is due. All right, we're going to head into the second intermission and talk very briefly just about some thoughts that I have on the other side. Now a brief word from Monopoly Go. And I know what you're saying. Okay, you've already talked about Monopoly Go. Yes, I get that, but there's so much good stuff in this game because you can team up with friends for timed tournaments, whether you work together to build up each other's boards, and the more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. You can get cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. I'm a dog person, so you know what I go with. Just great ways to smash their buildings, heist their vaults, and go into just great locales like Paris or Athens. Yeah, there's an Athens board. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges, and there's always new timed events to help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. Welcome back to episode number 871 of Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. For those of you that have stuck around for 800 plus episodes, thank you all so much. It's so greatly appreciated. And also got to give a shout out. I'm going to give some final thoughts here by giving a couple of shout outs here. First off, shout outs to a few fans, one of which has followed me on Twitter on the Locked On account for years now. Samantha Potter, who's a friend of the podcast. Thanks for coming to Coachella Valley on Sunday. I know she had a great time, took a picture with her and some of the other fans. It is on the Locked On account, so if you haven't checked out the Locked On Anaheim Ducks Twitter, there's an awesome picture with some of the fans that made it out to Coachella Valley this season. You guys are all awesome, and some of the Gulls fans travel very well. So again, just want to give a shout out to all the Gulls fans out there. All right, so we're going to conclude this podcast with a bit of a tribute here. Last week, one of the greatest announcers in hockey, Bob Cole, passed away last week. He had a prolific broadcasting career that spanned several decades. Now, I've heard of Bob Cole just because of how many great moments he has had over the years. I mean, he lived 90 years. He saw a lot of hockey, and he broadcasted for a number of years on national games in Canada. He did a lot of Hockey Night in Canada games, and he had a few memorable calls. For those that are Canadiens fans, one of them was talking about the 24th banner. In fact, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. Here's my little tribute to Bob Cole. For those of you that have been listening for years, for a long time, you know that I used to do a recurring show called Hockey Jeopardy. And I would write a plethora of different Jeopardy boards, hockey related, with various categories. And there was one show I did a category on hockey broadcasters, on famous broadcasters. And of course I had to do one about Bob Cole. And bless her heart for getting this right. Shout out, big shout out to Laura Saba on this one, co-host of Locked On Canadiens, who did answer correctly. So what I'm going to do is play a clip from that episode right now. This legendary announcer retired in 2019 from Hockey Night in Canada after broadcasting for 50 years. Laura.
Who is Bob Cole?
That's correct.
Yay!
Yay. Good job, Canada.
I have never once seen Bob Cole. I don't know what he looks like. I couldn't pick his voice out of a lineup.
Really?
Really.
Okay, have you ever seen the clip where it's like, and now a 24th banner will hang from the rafters of the, yeah?
No.
That's him. Okay, well, I'm going to send it to you.
Okay.
And just for good measure, I'm also going to send it to Sarah to rub it in.
Wow.
Yeah. All right.
I obviously know the name, but I have no idea what he looks like or sounds like.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about it on the podcast. Actually, I can't remember if it was this week or last week anymore, but yeah, it gave me chills. It was Monday, on our Monday episode. If anyone is so inclined, we talked about it. And as I was listening to my co-host just simply talk about it, I got chills. So, he's also the architect of the "everything is happening" call. The "and everything is happening."
Oh, yeah.
That's him.
Yep.
Yep. That's Bob Cole.
That's a good call.
That is a great line.
Oh, he's fantastic. I'm like so bitter that like, you know, they wouldn't let him call more games in his last few seasons. Like they wouldn't let him call bigger series and like, you know, I guess go further in the playoffs. Like eventually, like they would just like, you know, in the first round, they'd have everybody. And now I'm rambling. And then in the second round, like they drop him off and like go to other people to do the series. And it's just like, I'm so bitter about it.
Thanks so much to Laura for that. And also, I love that she brought up the "everything is happening" quote. I do quote that once in a while, and I will admit, I still try to bust out that quote once every few months from time to time because I still remember the "everything is happening" with Bob Cole. So just got to give a shout out there. Bob Cole, you'll be missed, passing away at the age of 90, but just a shout out and a tribute to one of the all-time greats. Many of you down in the States may have never heard of him. Many of you down in SoCal may have never heard of him. But he is one of the voices of hockey. And I guarantee if you watch some classic highlights, you will come across at least one or two with his voice in the background. I think that's a solid way to end this podcast. So once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Shout out to the Gulls fans. Shout out to Laura Saba. Shout out to just everybody listening and watching. Thank you all so much. This podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, ad-free on Amazon. We're also on YouTube, so hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Don't forget, you could email me at lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. The mailbag is officially open. And by the way, we will be back with a couple of new episodes tomorrow and one on Tuesday because we've got to talk about seasons by the numbers. I do this every year. We're going to do it again this year. So buckle up. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason JD Hernandez saying have a great rest of the day. Please remember to be safe out there. Please be kind to one another. And Ducks and Gulls fly together.